to thank everyone for joining me this morning. It's a miracle that I'm actually here. It's kind of funny, this whole idea of miracles. I experience a lot of miracles in my business. I work as a certified hypnotherapist and a success coach. And many people come to me at their wits' end. They come to me as a last resort. And they've tried everything. They've tried acupuncture and massage, therapists, all of that. And those are all good steps to take. But hypnosis is something that's considered to be voodoo. It's really not. It's actually a tool that we have that we can use at any time in any place. It's the way that our brain takes in information and records it and stores it for later retrieval. So in essence, it's how we learn. And so when people say to me, well, I don't think I can be hypnotized. Well, of course you can be hypnotized. Otherwise you wouldn't be talking, walking, thinking, or even sleeping. So hypnosis is just a tool that I use every day. It's kind of a miraculous tool. And in that sense, it makes a lot of sense. So with hypnosis, what I do is I help people relax those mental pathways so that other parts of the brain that haven't gotten the memo about how cool they are can eventually get that memo. I've had some people who were afraid of flying, and then after about 5 sessions, they're amazed that they can actually get on a plane with much less pain than ever before. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that hypnosis is going to be perfect or punctual. Sometimes the smarter we are, the tighter the knots that we tie to kind of confound us. But it has been my good fortune to be able to work with so many people. But one of the things I like to tell my clients too, even though what we do might seem to be miraculous, and I seem to be a really good healer, in essence though, I really can't take much credit for their healing because I'm just a tool. I just facilitate. In fact, I'm also a mirror for them so that they can recognize what it's possible that they can do, create, or become. Now, jumping into this story of miracles, and I have to say, I'm so excited about this topic, so if I come across a little bit giddy, it's because I am. It gives me an opportunity to add another layer to the information that I typically share at these talks. It also gives me a chance to marvel and to recognize the beauty of this world and how amazing we all are. Now, some of the big problems with miracles is actually being able to recognize one. Now, thanks to the miracle of Wikipedia, I pulled out the definition of it. A miracle is an event not explicable by nature or scientific laws. Such an event may be attributed to a supernatural being, God or gods, a miracle worker, a saint, or a religious leader. The word miracle is often used to characterize any beneficial event that is statistically unlikely, but not contrary to the laws of nature, such as surviving a natural disaster, or simply a wonderful occurrence, regardless of likelihood, such as a birth. Other miracles might be survival of an illness diagnosed as terminal, or escaping a life-threatening situation or beating the odds. Some coincidences may be seen as miracles. That's interesting to me. I think it expands the word miracle, but in some ways it almost limits it too. I think it may even forget about how we're all included in miracles. In fact, we just had a wondrous event just happened on Wednesday. Did you guys hear about it at Lake Harriet? There were 2 young women, one young girl and a 20-year-old woman swimming, and one of them wasn't able to swim to this dock that's out there. And just by a wondrous occurrence of events, people noticed her, or noticed it happening, heard it, and then they all linked hands to try to find her at the bottom of the lake. And they pulled her out, and then from what I understand, there just happened to be a person skilled as a lifeguard there. They weren't there as part of the park services, but happened to be there, and they were able to resuscitate her and help her out. I mean, it didn't just take a lightning strike there. It took all these people willing to step up and participate in helping recognize and save this person's life. It almost makes tears come to my eyes. These are happy tears. And that's the beautiful part of miracles. But once again, miracles can be huge like that, but they also can be small. These small miracles, like a flower or a tree, or even just a smile to another person. Now, I don't want to demean or diminish what can be accomplished with miracles, but I think if we can start looking at our lives as being more miraculous, then we'll actually be more appreciative of them. I can't tell you how many times I've heard someone say, "Oh, I was just killing time." Killing time? That's shocking to me, but it says a lot. Killing time means that inherently we're killing ourselves. And so why would we want to do that? I have friends, colleagues, relatives who really love animals, but they do not, and they wouldn't think of feeding their animals poor food or unhealthy food, but yet they systematically go to Burger King, and I'm sorry if someone in here goes to Burger King, but but they don't take that much time and attention to choose their food appropriately for themselves. In reality, we are animals, but that doesn't mean that animals are bad things. What they are is that they are a gift from the universe, and so we are a gift from the universe. Sometimes when I sit down and I think about all the different parts that combine to make us function, just recently my father was in the hospital, and he was having his pacemaker, a new pacemaker installed. And I know I make it sound like it's a computer program or just like taking the car to the shop, let's just go put another pacemaker in there. But so he was going to they were putting a pacemaker and a defibrillator. Yeah, and adding a third lead. Now my dad is 79 years old, and there was a possibility that he wasn't going to make it out of the surgery. And right now, it's fascinating how hospitals work, and God bless their souls. They work very diligently. The people in the Grand Forks Hospital that we were at were just fabulous. And across the board, they greeted us, they made us feel welcome. But this is what makes me laugh, though. They were only able to make us welcome for maybe a total of 12 hours. Right now, hospitals, they get you in and then they get you out pronto. And it's actually kind of shocking. We got to the hospital at 6:30 in the morning. Then they took him in for the operation at 10 o'clock, and they were done by 11:30. Then 6 hours later, they were wheeling him to the door. His incision was still bleeding, and we managed to get him home, and it all turned out to be fine. If I had my personal preferences, we would have kept him there at least 2 more days, maybe 10 days, because my dad tends to do too much, too early, too soon. But it all worked out really well. And I have to say, I didn't really worry about my dad dying, although I was very conscious of him dying. I was very conscious of the miraculousness of his life and the fact that I've been able to participate with him so fully. And also my mom's too. The morning of the surgery, my dad and I were talking. It was like 6, maybe 5:30 in the morning. Like quite a few elderly people. I hope I'm not stereotyping. But my parents, when they want to get there early, they're ready 2 hours beforehand. And so we were up at like 5, and we were talking. And he said, I'm not so worried about myself. I'm worried about someone being able to take care of Mom if something does happen to me. And so in this moment, when he could potentially die, he was so selfless that he was more concerned about Mom. And I'm glad he told me, because then he could offload that energy and that fear onto me, which I could take. You know, I'm fine with hearing that information. But what was fascinating about it is that because I'm so appreciative of having my parents in my life, I can recognize it. When I posted online a picture of them, and if you go to Facebook, you can see it, but my mom and dad are looking at each other like they're so in love. It's and it's just amazing. And it's taken a lifetime to grow that love. And it's had its ups and downs. It's not perfect. I think their marriage is turning 58 on the 29th of June. Yeah. And I felt a little strange posting that picture. And I thought about it like, oh my God, am I hexing myself? Am I bragging about this? And if I brag about this, might he die? You know, that whole cause and effect thing. And I thought, you know what? No. If he's going to die, I already decided that whatever was going to be was going to be. There wasn't any thought or feeling. Well, there wasn't any thought or any action that I can do other than loving actions that would change the course of events. Me being scared, me being sad, me being afraid, or angry, none of those things would have helped the situation at all. So I chose not to feel those things. I chose just to revel in even the few moments that we had, if indeed he was going to pass away. And don't get me wrong, if he had passed, I would have cried, without a doubt. I would have also felt my mom's grief and confusion and loneliness. I would have felt my brothers and sisters, their sadness and loneliness. But I did not want to take away from any time that I had and focusing on things that would not necessarily contribute to that greater good. So, what was fascinating, though, about posting that picture is that I realized that it was possible that my dad would die. And then, I know this is going to sound strange, and then I'd have to kind of write at the bottom of this picture, well, I'm sorry, Dad didn't make it. But you know what? I realized that that would not make that picture any less meaningful. In some ways, it might even make it more poignant. The beautiful thing is that, it's funny because the way they're holding their hands and the way their body is shaped, it almost looks like they're an actual heart. So if you get a chance, go ahead and take a look at it. And if you want to friend me, go ahead. I have infinite space in my heart for my friends, so. Now, other miracles. Okay, how many of you guys have actually experienced miracles? And we know because of small things. Do any of you want to share? Now, Grant, okay, and you have to remember that this is videotaped, so it will be live for everyone, an even broader audience. But is there anyone who wants to share? Yeah? Okay.
This has happened several times. I swerved into another lane without checking first, and this other car was like 2 fingers away from me, and somehow we didn't hit each other.
Wow. What was your...
Try not to do that.
This gentleman was talking about how several times he almost swerved into a lane, and one time just recently, there was another car just 2 inches away from him. Yeah, I've done that. And even with bicyclists, I try to be super, super careful about bicyclists, motorbikes, pedestrians, animals. But once, just recently, I got too close to a bicyclist, and I was just kind of like, oh, don't want to do that. And that in itself can be deemed a miracle, but just no one really notices it. One miracle that I had that I'm sure was divine intervention. I was going up north with my husband, who was the husband at that time. Makes it sound like I have 10 husbands or something. I've had more than 1 or 2 or 3. No, I've only had one husband so far in my life. And he and I are still friends, and which I cherish very deeply. We were going up north to Duluth and further up the North Shore. And we were on 35W. We were still in the cities. And all of a sudden, I sensed this semi on the left of our truck. And I got the impression that that semi wanted to be taking a certain exit. And all of a sudden, space and time got shifted. And it was really crazy. And I even felt my body like separate from my spirit. And all of a sudden, that semi that was to our left was over on that exit going onto another highway. And both Dave and I were just like, did that happened, right? And we were saying that to each other. And we were just bedazzled. It was bizarre. And it almost still takes my breath away. But what's interesting, which makes me even realize more fully that there was divine intervention, is that to this day now, his memory about it keeps on getting dimmer and dimmer. And it's not because he's going senile. He's actually incredibly brilliant, and he loves history, he loves facts, he loves details. And so but he is also, though, not necessarily as spiritual as I am. He's a little bit more grounded in the day-to-day stuff that happens. And it was like 5 years later, I asked him if he remembered about it. And even though we had had conversations previously, it was like it was being pulled from his brain, because in that moment in time, we weren't necessarily supposed to experience it or see it or remember it. It's almost like, what's that science fiction show with Will Smith and that other guy about aliens, and then they go and wipe their minds because they... Men in Black. Okay. I feel like that was supposed to happen, and that our minds were supposed to be wiped, but somehow I think I just kept on clinging to that memory and that experience, because I do tend to be somewhat of a deconstructionist. I tend to find a scientific reasoning for everything. I'm an astrologer, and I'm still studying it. I don't quite believe in it, but yet I can't quite put it down, because I can just get too much information from it. So I live in that land of I believe in everything and I believe in nothing. And what that allows me is that I can have the best poker hand possible. And what that means is, like, let's talk about past lives and future lives. There's a part of me that really believes in past lives and future lives. But then there's also a part of me that knows or thinks that this is our only life. And then after this life, that's it. We just go into the dust, we go into the dirt, our energy becomes part of the greater resource. But in many ways, it doesn't matter which one I believe, because this is my only chance that I get to be Susan. Whether I have a past or future life, there's going to be different combinations of what that life is going to be, different lessons, different opportunities for me to experience, for you guys to experience. So regardless of what you believe, the best thing to do is to believe in the most positive, best answer possible. Because this is my only life that I get to be Susan. This is Gary's only life that he gets to be Gary. And Jan, this is your only life that you get to be Jan. So why should we leave anything on the table? Make this the best life that you can. Make it the most miraculous life that you can. Now, sometimes, and that kind of comes to a frame of mind, being able to accept the miracles. When I was in that truck with Dave, at that moment in time, he accepted the miracle. He was glad to still be alive. But then over time, and he's a positive person, but over time, some of his pessimism in the world caused him to forget that event and that blessing that it was. So I really think that it makes a lot of sense to create a positive frame of mind, to act happy. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean to pretend that you're happy, but allow yourself the happiness in your world. Allow yourself to feel gratitude. Anyone want to share something that they're grateful for? Yeah, Jan, you're going to help me out? Ah, Jan is grateful for a beautiful day. Anyone else? Yeah? Oh, this wonderful lady said her rescue dog. Yes. Yeah, your health. That's a rock star answer. All of these are rock star answers. And so that gratitude that we can have, that is one of the first steps. Okay, so having a great attitude, awesome. Then having something specific that you can be grateful for. When you're grateful for something, that also can open your mind to the possibility and the probability that it is a miracle. Now, sometimes people seek miracles too much. I always do that. There's one side of the coin, and now I flip it to the other side of the coin. And there's a lot of people in this world who rely too much on luck. They want to win the lottery. Do you guys know anyone like that? Yeah. They're just waiting for their ship to come in. They're just waiting for XYZ to happen. And yet they don't apply any energy. They don't apply any effort towards that opportunity. There's a book that was pretty well known and still well known called The Secret. And it was about thinking positively. And someone once told me a story about how they were sitting in their living room, a lady and her husband, and they thought, all right, we're gonna think positively, you know? And so they started thinking about getting $1,000 or, $1 million. And so they started thinking. And I think the universe was laughing at them because all of a sudden their beagle dog came in and dropped a candy bar wrapper down at the floor by their feet. Guess what that candy bar was? $100,000 bar, but payday would have been funny too. And was that miraculous? Yeah, that was kind of cool. But the universe was essentially saying to them, I'm going to give to you in the direct correlation to the amount of energy you put into this is what the universe is going to put into it. So they did get their $100,000, but it was a candy wrapper. So it makes sense to participate in our miracles. It makes sense to show up for our luck, to show up for our opportunities, to create our opportunities. Sometimes I seem a little strange to my friends because I'm always working on something. I have this project or this book or this article I'm writing or I'm doing this talk or all of that. And I don't want people to think I'm a witch. And I'm going to go on record right now to say to everyone, I'm not a witch. Do not burn me. Do not... I'm so tired of getting burned at the stake. But I'm just curious about the world, and I keep on wanting to feed my curiosity. I keep on wondering, well, what's going to happen next? And that's the scientist in me. Well, one of the things that I'm working on right now, and Gary, yes, Greg, what's her name? Pete, sorry. Okay, yeah, Gerard. That's her last name. Okay, thank you. The street. Well, he introduced some material about my documentary that I'm working on. And it's actually been kind of fascinating because 25 years ago, when I was like 4 years old, I started working on this documentary. And I interviewed 15 plus people about their soul, their spirituality, and what inspires them and what motivates them in life and how they use that. Well, 5 years ago, I tried to get it going again, and I wanted to revisit them. It didn't have much traction, so I had to kind of like set it aside. But then last year, it came to my mind again. I thought, you know what? Maybe I should try again and see if I can find these individuals and update their stories, essentially creating a spiritual time capsule. And how this has been coming together has been pretty miraculous. I ended up moving to a new apartment in, gosh, it was October of 2013. And then 5 months later, someone else moves into that same apartment. And that person just happened to be a photojournalist at Fox TV. And so I started talking with him, and I started sharing the story about this documentary, and and he was intrigued, and he was thinking that maybe he would help me out. And I thought, okay, but I didn't show him the video until I showed it to a friend of mine. And this friend is an artist, and he's really smart, and he's really awesome. And I thought, you know what? This friend, if he likes it, I'll share it with the photojournalist. But I didn't think he was going to like it, because my artist friend is very particular, very discerning. And so I thought he was going to put thumbs down. No, he put thumbs up. I was like, oh, no, now I have to go through with this. Now I actually have to do this. And so fast forward. Actually, no, we don't have to fast forward. That was Friday. Sunday, I had been out networking. I had 3 different events to go to. And finally, I was coming back to Edina. I stopped at a Holiday on 50th, which is just nearby. And as I was getting out of my car, there was some construction, but I could see it on the sidewalk. There was someone who was looking at a map or something, and he looked familiar. And I thought, oh, God, no. So I went into the Holiday, got my stuff, came back out, and I thought, no, he was still there. And I was like, oh, all right. I had to pull around, and I stopped, and then he went back into the Holiday, so I followed him back in the Holiday. He turned out to be one of the people in my documentary. I know, at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, and here was the most bizarre stuff about it. This was someone who I thought, out of all the people, might be dead, or totally impossible to find. And all of a sudden, he shows up right there in my neighborhood. And we talk, and he recognized me, and I really do not think that I had seen him in this full 25 years, maybe 24 years ago. And his story is really interesting. He is retired. He doesn't own a car. He gets around via bike and bus, and he happened to be right on that corner, right on that sidewalk, because he had just seen a film at the Edina Cinema. And he stopped right there because he wanted to find out when the last bus was coming by on Xerxes. And he doesn't own a phone, which is another crazy thing, so it would have been really impossible to find him. He is on Facebook. And that's how we continue to stay in contact. We shot his video. It's awesome. But that event alone, I think, was finally the final convincer for me. And then ever since then, I've done a road trip from Minneapolis to Santa Fe to California. The majority of people are here in Minnesota, which makes it really nice. But there's a family in Tallahassee, another family in Santa Fe, and a couple people in California. Now, I don't want to give too much away because I want you guys to enjoy the documentary when it comes out. But when I went to California, there was a part of me that was wondering, God, how am I going to get everyone to sign those releases? You know? Because we're becoming such a suing kind of civilization. And California is one of the most savvy places when it comes to getting releases, getting permission. And I don't know, it just happened. I even got a pastor to sign a release afterwards. So just the fact that, and my cameraman, who's pretty sophisticated and savvy, he was just shocked at how much we were able to accomplish on this adventure. So, so time and time again. And one of the things that I thought was miraculous about this whole thing is how much I've learned in the process. You know, there's a family in Tallahassee, and their child has sickle cell anemia, but they're just amazing. They bless every moment they have with their son, and he has had some challenges. Sometimes at a moment's notice they have to go to the hospital because he's having an adverse reaction to what's going on in his body. But you know what? They're not saying, boo-hoo, poor me, my life sucks, oh, you know, I'm not getting XYZ. They're not focusing on what they don't have. They're focusing on what they do have. And what they do have is this amazing relationship with each other, with their son. Everything they do has meaning. And it doesn't stop there. Another lady that I met that was in California, she had a recent bike accident, and she's in the process of recovering, and she's currently making music for movies and documentaries. And so I guess one of the things I want to accomplish with this documentary is about not just how the experts think about religion or spirituality, not just how the church or the Bibles or the Quran, not how they think about spirituality. What I'm very interested in revealing is how do everyday people like you and I, how do we express our spirituality? How do we express our good fortune, our gratitude? How do we express our good luck? How do we express our life? How do we pull our spirituality into our words and actions and not just leave it at the church every time we leave this place on Sundays or every time we leave it? You know, it's funny because I like to say to my clients, my body is my church. My brain is my church. When I come to events like this, whether I'm in the audience or whether I'm giving a talk, I try to let every word I say be informed by that spirituality. And then I try to live it outside those doors. I try to live it with everyone I interact with. There's a phrase that is being spread, in all things be kind. And I like that. It doesn't mean necessarily to be nice, but what it means is to temper your words. Because sometimes you might have to tell someone some bad news. The other day, I'm giving a lot of personal information. I hope my mom and dad don't mind, but my mom is having troubles with her hearing, and it's almost getting to the place where it's a little profound, and it might be adding to her sense of stability in this life. But she's losing her hearing, and one of the things that she said to me is, well, I don't want a hearing aid because that's just going to make me look old. Well, and then I said to her, well, not using it, not being able to hear, that is actually making you old. I come home because I want to participate with you. I come home because I want to hear your stories. I actually stayed an extra day with my mom and dad because he was starting to get healthier and he was sleeping less. He was getting a little crabby, but but he was getting more talkative because he had the energy to be talkative. So I stayed an extra day, and that was also one of those opportunities that my mom and I could talk about the hearing aid. And I said, you've started to use that little roller thing that helps you be stable. This is just an easy step. Don't let vanity get in the way of continuing to participate in your world. I come home because I want to spend time with you. I don't want to come home and yell at you so you can hear me. And bless her soul, it made sense to her. Now, I could have argued with her, I could have criticized her, but one of the things in saying all of that is I was choosing to be kind, and I also was choosing to be vulnerable, telling her essentially how much I loved and appreciated her. And so kindness does not necessarily mean being nice all the time, but kindness means sharing the information in such a way that it's palatable and can be easily acceptable. Quick question, what time is it? 11:10. So I have like 10 more minutes? Okay. I'm so organic when I do these talks. Oh, yes?
I am curious about one thing, and I'm sorry this changed the topic back a little bit, but could you resolve this? Do you think that we actually could, and would the universe accept affirming for $1 million? Would that make any sense spiritually?
Say that again?
Affirming for $1 million. You know, those people were sitting there doing positive thinking for money, $1 million or whatever the amount was. Would the universe accept such a thing? Or not? Or is that possible? In your experience?
Affirming as in...
Receiving the $1 million.
Oh,
Manifesting the $1 million, whatever the amount.
yeah. If it had actually come in,
Yeah.
sure, that would be a miracle. And and a lot of people who win the lottery, that ends up being a miracle. And that's actually a really good question. So that kind of comes down to accepting your good fortune. If all of a sudden I end up getting $1 million, would I walk away from it? No way. But then what I would do is I would take that money and make it more money, and I would share it with people, and then create more miracles for people, and not just keep it for myself. But yeah, wishing for it, that's like the first step, but then we actually have to do something to manifest it. Thank you.
So it's not just the affirmations, you have to do something.
Yes, yeah. And, it's interesting because a lot of times when I work with people with hypnosis, I don't use it in the traditional way of programming someone because that's akin to affirmations. And the reason why I don't use that as much is that because people have self-sabotages inside their brain, that anytime they hear something positive, it's like, not me, nope. Oh, you think I'm beautiful? Yeah, well, or you like this dress? I got it out of the garbage bag, and they'll say things like that. And so I directly work with the self-sabotages inside the brain. A lot of times good intentions are awesome, but if you don't back it up with energy and commitment, then they mean nothing. But yeah, if you guys get $100,000 or $1 million just by sitting on a couch, I would say, yeah, accept it, recognize the miracle, and then, yeehaw. What else? So, recognize, and that's a good thing that he mentioned, is that there's the good miracles that we should just accept and be happy for because we're really super fortunate. But then there's also the bad luck that we complain a little bit too much about. There's a part of me that could have been sad that my dad was having this heart surgery, but thank God for Facebook. I can get a pretty good picture of how many people who don't have their parents, and the fact that I still have them at this day. I realized that I was not going to moan and cry about this small event that was happening, because other people have definitely walked this path before me. And so then this kind of comes down to the whole idea of how do you rethink that bad luck that might be happening in your life. And part of it is to reframe it, see it in a bigger and bigger context. So my dad's situation, unfortunate, but it's life. And what I did was I looked at everyone else in the world, in the spectrum, and I realized we're all in the same boat. They lost their dad or mom. I might be losing mine. There's that saying that the moment we're born is when we start dying. And so it's like, death is a part of life. And if we can't embrace it and respect it, then there is no spotlight on our life. There is no appreciation about what we have. But there was one year where in December, I managed to get my car towed a second time. And I think it was like $175 or $275. And so getting my car towed, it was money I needed. That was food money. That wasn't money that I was going to go buy a new dress with or, leave on the ground. It was money that had purpose. And then the second, it was just crushing. But then I thought, no, I don't want to stay stuck in this thing. And so I started thinking of ways that could make it be better, that could give it a different patina, to give it a different color. And so I thought, you know what? There might be, out of all the times I could have been towed, the fact that I've only been towed maybe 3 times, that's kind of miraculous. I probably owe several cities and municipalities, I don't know, $5,000, maybe $100,000 with the number of times I should have been towed. So in that sense, it was like, okay, the odds have been in my favor. Also, the other thing that I thought that made a lot of sense to me was, you know what? Because they were busy towing me, that it meant that someone else was not being towed. And maybe they were less able to pay that money, or they needed it for something like really important. So that actually made me feel good. You know, I was participating in a miracle that no one else had to witness, although you guys are now witnesses, but that it was something that made it feel better for me. And so in many ways, that bad luck became good luck. So in wrapping this up, gosh, there's so much I could talk about. Once again, I want to write a story, write an article, and you can check out on my Facebook. That's where I typically post them, and also on my website. And but I'll write up more about this because I think that this is miracles is another way that we can see an opportunity for gratitude. And then I'm going to mention one other thing. I am going to be doing a Kickstarter campaign next week, and so if you want to keep your eyes peeled for that. And if you want to participate in that miracle, go ahead. Just by listening to this story today, what was really cool is I could see that you guys were appreciating it and the story and the genesis of it. And so that actually gives me more heart and energy to continue forward on it. So in leaving you today, I just want to say thank you for the miracle of you. Thank you for choosing to spend this time with me. And, go forth. Recognize your miracles, accept your miracles, and help create your miracles. Thank you. I'm going to separate you two, if that's okay. All right. Now, typically, in the past, I've had people say I love you to each other and give each other hugs, but that's resulted in too many births and children. No, I'm just kidding. But in light of the whole idea of miracles, what I want to do is we're going to go around the circle, and I want everyone to say thank you. And then also just say out to everyone, just say, thank you, I love you. You want to do that? Yeah. All right, I'll start out. Thank you, I love you. Go ahead.
Thank you, I love you.
Thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you.
Thank you, I love you.
Thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you.
Um,
Thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you.
Thank you, I love you.
Thank you, I love you, and I mean it.
Thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you.
Thank you, I love us.
Yeah.
Thank you, I love you.
Thank you, I love you.
Yeah.
Obrigado, te amo.
Thank you, I love you.
Thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you.
Awesome. Okay, now we're all going to say it all together, but now what I want you to do is I want you to send energy out, that expression of love, and I also want you to receive that love in from all of us. Okay? On 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, I love you. Yeah. You know what? Go and make it your day.
Thank you. I love you.